Welcome to Jackie's Craft Table. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you're all having a great start to your new year. I needed to build up my stash of masculine birthday cards, so that's what I'm working on today. This is a quick and simple card, and I'm using a few block stamps for this card. Now, I don't usually purchase block stamps just because I don't have a lot of room for them in my craft room. I know that a lot of crafters collect these block stamps and even use them in their craft rooms for decoration. However, I do prefer the clear stamps just for storage purposes. But I have a dear friend who passed along all of her block stamps to me. And she had quite the collection, and I certainly wasn't going to turn that offer down. So this is part of the collection that she gave me. And I had a lot of fun playing with all of these block stamps and coming up with cards with them. I'm using a few colors of Memento teardrop inks. And I chose colors that would be appropriate for a masculine card. So I'm stamping 3 of each color, mostly on the left side of this card, and I'm just making a visual triangle with each color, so that's why I chose to stamp them each 3 times. These are dye inks, so they do dry pretty fast. I probably didn't condition these stamps well enough before I started stamping with them, because they do stamp out kind of blotchy, but I kind of liked the look for this masculine card, so it doesn't bother me. Next, I'm filling in with the smaller circles, and I'm just stamping 3 of each color with those as well. I'm stamping on some Nina 110-pound cardstock, and I cut it out with a faux stitch die. And I love how you can see the stitching where I stamp the darker inks along the edge. I think that's a really cute look. I just love anything with faux stitching on it. Now for another fun part, I'm just using the black ink. I'm very sloppily stamping the outline stamp around these circles. I think that just adds to the modern look of this card. As I said before, these cards went really fast, and it was just fun to do, to sit down and make a quick card. I also did some in different colors. I did a pink version of this with the yellow and the dark pink and the light pink, and it turned out really cute as well. I did forget to stamp one of the circles at the top, but I come in and fix that later, off camera. I'm going to make up another version of this card, and I'm using a square stamp. I'm using the same colors of ink. These ink pads just seem to last forever. I've had them for a long time, and they just seem juicy still. And I'm going to stamp these kind of wonky, like I did the circles. I don't want them in a straight row. So when I first got the stamps, my daughter and I had a lot of fun going through this huge box of stamps. And she claimed a lot of stamps for herself. There was plenty to go around. And then I went into kind of a card-making frenzy, and it was just a lot of fun. I was up to my elbows in block stamps. I made up several sets of cards to give to my friend who gave me all of these stamps. Back to the card. I'm trying to clean off the stamps really well in between the inks. And this next one, you'll see that I didn't clean it off very well. It turns out kind of bluish green, not a pretty color. So I get around that later on by covering it with my sentiment, and that works out just fine. I'm slowly learning not to throw my cards on the scrap heap just for little mistakes, but trying to figure out how to get around the mistakes and make the cards work. I just hate wasting paper and ink and my time putting it together. Who does? The card looks kind of messy now, but I'm going to come in with the outline stamp again and sloppily stamp the outline around these squares, and it just brings it to the next level. It just makes it look cute. This yellow thing that you see me wearing, it looks like a blanket, but it's really a shawl. It's just been so cold here in Chicagoland that even though the house is warm, I feel the need to wear a sweater or a shawl or something, especially when I'm sitting down and crafting. Here in Chicagoland, it's just painful to breathe when you go outside. I'm hoping this cold snap ends soon. We'll see. These shape stamps are a lot of fun to play with. Lately, it seems like they've come out with a lot of shape stamps. I'm going to have to purchase some of those. They just look fun. Moving on to the sentiment, I'm going to be white heat embossing it onto some black cardstock, And I'm putting down my anti-static powder here first. I need to get an anti-static bag, I think. I'm so tired of having to open up this lid and pouring out the anti-static powder. I just want something a little more easy. I'm using another block stamp from my friend, and I absolutely love the font on this sentiment. I inked it up with some Versamark ink, and I'm just using this die to find the placement. I keep all my black cardstock scraps. I don't know why I go through black cardstock so fast, but I keep all of the scraps because I know I'll be using them. I'm gently tapping the back of the cardstock just to get some of the loose powder off. It shows up really well on the black cardstock, so I'm coming in with a dry brush just to brush some of the strays away. I forgot to mention that I did purchase a new craft mat. My previous one was just getting too dirty. I couldn't even clean the spots off of it. So I thought it was time to replace it, start a new year. Before I melt the embossing powder, I like to turn on my heat tool for a good minute and then bring it to the cardstock. This helps prevent the paper from warping too badly. I love the look of white embossing powder on this black cardstock. After the embossing powder has melted, I can go ahead and wipe off the anti-static powder with a clean cloth or a tissue. It comes off really well. I pulled out my banner faux stitched dies to cut out the sentiment. One of them is going to be longer than the other because of the layout of the cards. One's going to be a portrait and one's going to be a landscape. For this shorter banner that I'm cutting out here, I do go back in again and cut out just the top of it so it has the faux stitching running along the top as well. And that was easy to do. I just replaced it in the same die but at the top so that the faux stitching was impressed into it. Now I can go ahead and assemble my cards. These are going to be very flat, easy to put through the mail, and I'm just using some dry adhesive on the back of this first panel. This is going to be my portrait style card, and I'm just going to center that onto my black cardstock. If you wanted a little more dimension, you could go ahead and prop up the sentiment strip or banner with some foam tape, and that would be really cute too. But for this card, I'm just going to use some dry adhesive. For the second card, the square right there that's kind of greenish blue, I'm going to make sure that I cover that up with the sentiment. And I almost adhere it on upside down here, but I realize what I'm doing and quickly flip it around. That miscolored square is going to be completely hidden by this sentiment. I thought it needed a little something more, so I'm pulling out my enamel dots. And I'm just going to add a few onto the black cardstock. I think this just adds a little more interest and brightens it up a little bit more. I have a few bottles of the Nouveau drops, but I never seem to have the right colors, and so I need to add more of those to my collection. But I do like these flat enamel dots that you can just pick up at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. And they're quick and easy to use. So this completes my 2 cards. Please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also click on the bell if you'd like to be notified when I publish a new video. And don't forget to share this video on your favorite social media. One of these I have to get out into the mail right away for one of my sweet brothers-in-law. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have some more birthday cards and even some Valentine card videos in the queue. So stay tuned for those, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Bye!